Hello and welcome back to another tutorial in Unreal Engine. Today we're going to build a simple interaction system based on interfaces and then use that to create a few examples such as a working door that the player can open and close. So to get started, I'm going to go ahead and create a new project based on the third-person template, and I'm going to name it, let's see, tutorial interaction. Create project, and in the description of this video there should be a link to some files. And that file just contains some static meshes such as a door frame, and a glowing ball. So if you already have your own door, that's okay. You don't have to use what I linked, but if you do not, go ahead and unzip that file and just drag it into your content folder. I'm going to make a new folder and call it tutorial assets. And I'm going to drag these files just directly into it like that. I'm going to click import all. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. And just right off the bat, I'm going to go ahead and create a blueprint class of type actor. I'm going to call it BP door. And I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to add a static mesh to it. I'm going to drag it over the default scene root to get rid of that. I'm going to add another static mesh. So let me rename these to door and door frame. So for the door frame, we put in our door frame, and for the door, we put in the door, just like that. And go ahead and move that around so that it's, it lines up correctly. You may have to disable snapping to get it just right, and that's pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to just drag that into the level just to see what it looks like. And let's see. And yeah, okay. So I can't walk through it. That's the door serving its purpose. So let's get it actually working now. So a door is very simple. Obviously, the idea is that we want to rotate that between where it is now and there, so 90 degrees. So between 0 and 90 degrees, we just want to be able to open and close it. And so to do that, I'm going to click that. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to get the rotation. So this is like the starting rotation. So if we open it, we want to be able to go back to where it was and close it. So I'm going to call it starting rotation. And then we also need to know the target rotation when it's open. So that is at 90 degrees. So we could hard set that, but I'm going to just do it based on the starting rotation. So I'm going to break the rotation here. I'm going to make another one. I'm going to put in the X and the Y. I'm going to add 90 to the Z axis. I'm going to save this. This is going to be our target rotation. Okay. And so now I'm going to create a custom event called, toggle door. And to actually do the moving of the door, we're going to use a timeline. So go ahead and add a timeline. I'm going to call it timeline door. And then you can double click it to go inside. I'm going to create a new float track, name it alpha, add a key. So right click here and click add key. And I'm going to set it to 0 and 0 for the first one, and then add a second key at 1, 1. And I'm going to check this use last keyframe so that it only goes between the first keyframe and the second keyframe. And so now I'm going to drag off the timeline, and I'm going to set the play rate to, let's say, I'm going to drag off, and if you do a float divided by a float and set the top one to 1 second, I'm sorry, 1, we can, in the bottom now, we can create a variable that controls the play rate in seconds. So I'm going to set it to 2 seconds. That way we can easily adjust the timeline in seconds and not have to go back in here and monkey with this graph. So actually, I'm gonna move this to begin play like that. Okay, and so to actually rotate the door, we know we have to set the rotation. So let's go ahead and put that down. I'm gonna connect it to the update, and to do that, we're gonna have to interpolate based on this alpha. So you can type in lerp, and because we're using, we have rotation variables, we can use the lerp rotator just like that. And A being the start and B being the end, we can plug in starting rotation and the target rotation like that, and then plug in the result into our set rotation for the door. So just to test this, we can, on the begin play, I'm going to add a little delay, 1 second, and I'm going to call that custom event of a door so that it will just play that custom event when I start map. So yeah, so that's good. There's a problem where I can't walk through the door frame. So go back to the content browser and go to the door frame, and down here click apply on the convex decomposition. That's going to generate some collision components there, like you can see, and that should fix that. Yeah, okay. So that's good. So that's our door timeline works. So, but now we need to actually let the player interact with it. So to do that, we need to create an interface. I'm going to create, so down here, blueprint interface. I'm going to call it int underscore interaction. And then that's going to have a function called interact. And I'm going to leave the input and output blank. So now I'm going to go back to the BP door, and I'm going to go to class settings, and I'm going to click on add interface. I'm going to find our interface that we just created. I'm going to add it. So now that we've added it, on the left, we can see a list of functions that our interface has. So we can right click that and click implement. And I'm just going to replace our old custom event, the tile door, with this interface function. Okay, and so now we have that. Let's go find the third person character, which is, if you're using the third person template, it's third person BP, blueprints, and then third person character. And go to the event graph, and I'm just going to put in input E because I want to use the E character. So when they press E, it will interact. So let's get overlapping actors, and we're going to iterate through them with a for each, and we're going to call that interact function on each actor. And so the beauty of the interface is that we don't have to know, what type of actor this is. So this could be a BP door, it could be something else. But the point is that if it implements this interaction interface and then implements the interact function, it will call it. And if not, it does nothing, and that's okay. So now that we have that, we still have to add the ability for the player to overlap with the BP door. So we need to add I want to add a box collision to this. And I'm going to make it a little bigger than that. Let's see. That's okay. Yeah. So now when I'm inside the box, I'm technically overlapping with a BP door, and therefore I will uh, find the BP door in this list of overlapping actors, and then when I iterate through it, I will call the interact on the BP door. So let's see if that works. Over here, I press E and it opens, so that's good. So now let's add the ability to close the door again, which is just a simple addition of a flip-flop here right before the timeline. So we'll plug the A into play and the B into reverse. So now we go here and we will press E. It will just open and close like that. So very cool. So that's really it for the door. So let's go ahead and do another one, and so we can see how we can share the same interface. So I'm going to go to Content Browser and go to the Assets, and I'm going to create a new blueprint class of type actor called BP and C glowing ball. I'm going to add a static mesh to this, drag it over the default scene root. I'm going to plug in the SM glowing ball, just like that. I'm going to add a sphere collision to this. I'm going to make it big enough so that it makes sense. Player can overlap, interact with it if he's within this sphere. That's probably good. And then I'm going to go to class settings. I'm going to implement that same interface and interaction. I'm going to delete all these. I'm going to right click and click implement event. And so I want to, when a player interacts with the ball, I want him to sort of kick the ball. So let's go to static mesh for the ball and click simulate physics. And now on the interact function, let's right click and let's do add impulse. Let's do add radial impulse. Let's do that one. And the origin is going to be, I'm going to get player pawn and then get actor location. I want the impulse to come from the direction of the players. So radius, I'm just going to say 500 and strength 2000. I want to check this velocity change. So now let's drag it into the world. So now if I go up to the ball and I press E, it should kick it just like that. So that's pretty cool. And it's all using the same interface that the door is. So really cool, because anything that you want the player to interact with, even if it does something completely different, you just implement that interface and then implement that function. So very cool stuff. And I think that's it. So thanks for watching.